Fox News. Breaking news.
They're meeting right now in Washington, D.C. in secret. The most powerful unelected humans on planet Earth have called an emergency Bilderberg conference. Something that has not happened in 33 years, and the mainstream media is giving it zero coverage. So ask yourself why. These are the shadow architects who decide your future before you even know there's a decision to make. Presidents get elected. These people get obeyed. And right now, they're rattled. Something has them so scared and so desperate and so cornered that they broke a 3-decade precedent to assemble in a panic. We have the leaked participant list to prove it. You see, this isn't some academic policy discussion happening in a fancy hotel. This is about your life. This is about your money. This is about your freedom. When the Bilderberg Group meets, they're not debating, they're deciding. The European Union, that was hatched in the Bilderberg meetings. Countries that had their own currencies for thousands of years surrendered them because of decisions made in rooms just like this. Now look at their agenda. AI, digital finance, future of warfare. Translation, they're deciding who controls your money when cash goes digital. They're deciding how artificial intelligence will monitor, track, and manage populations. They're deciding which wars get funded and which nations get destabilized. And you weren't invited to vote on any of it. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's in that room, and so is Peter Thiel, so is Satya Nadella from Microsoft. The King and Queen of Netherlands, Prime Ministers from Denmark and Greece and Canada, NATO's Secretary General, the heads of the IMF and the European Central Bank. These aren't people who ask for permission. They give orders. And right now they're writing the script for the next decade of your life. Speaking of global power players making moves behind closed doors, there is something happening right now that could actually work in your favor for once. This breaking news from the White House, they just announced over $30 billion to secure America's critical mineral supply chain. And they named a specific Alaskan project as a key strategic asset for U.S. mineral independence. You see, I've been to the Vizsla copper drilling site myself. I've seen it with my own eyes. And what's happening right now is bigger than most people realize. See, President Trump just unveiled Project Vault, a $12 billion strategic minerals reserve designed to stockpile essential resources and keep America from being dependent on China for the minerals that power everything, from military equipment to electric vehicles. While the globalists at Bilderberg scheme to control digital finance and future warfare, the Trump administration is making sure America controls the resources that make both possible. You see, this is the kind of strategic move that puts America first. Now, Vizsla Copper, make note of this, they trade in the United States under VCUFF and in Canada as VCUV. Write that down, it's on the screen. And check the exclusive briefing that's linked below to see why this matters now more than ever. And we thank them for supporting this program. Now let's get back to what's really happening inside that hotel in Washington, D.C., because here's what makes this even more revealing. Dan Dix from Press for Truth, he's on the ground right now. He says he's one of the only 2 journalists covering this entire event. Now let that sink in. The most powerful people on earth are gathered blocks from the White House, and the corporate media has completely blacked it out. They've got massive green screens blocking the view, tinted windows on every car, security everywhere. And the people who claim to be journalists, they're not covering the story. They're inside the meeting receiving their marching orders. So wait until you see who got caught sneaking out. But first, let's go to Dan Dix, Press for Truth. He's on the ground right now. We've been tracking his X account. Here he is, day 2 of the 2026 Bilderberg Conference. It's underway. And considering this appears to be an emergency April meeting, hasn't happened in 33 years, I think the implications are huge. Let's listen to his on-the-ground report from outside of Källa.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. It is now day 2 of the annual Bilderberg meeting here in Washington, D.C. Today is typically the day where the real bulk of the meeting takes place. The real meat and potatoes are discussed about their next phase of the plan moving forward. So I'm going to be here all day to document who's here and get a better idea of what sort of things they may actually be discussing. Now, a lot of people are probably not aware that it's the Bilderberg Group who's responsible for major world-shaping events. One example is the European Union. That was hashed out by the Bilderberg Group. That was their idea, which came to fruition. This concept of all these countries in Europe giving up their national sovereignty, and many of them relinquishing their own currency. Some of them who've had them for thousands of years gave that up in favor of the euro. And this was an idea that was hashed out by Bilderberg, where the inner circle of the inner circle, as I like to call them, managed to project this idea to the rest of the delegates, and then it became a reality, because these are some of the most powerful and influential people we're dealing with here. You may also not be aware that it was the Bilderberg Group who, shortly after 9/11, hashed a plan to enter the Middle East, go into Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was at those early meetings when they told the delegates that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And of course, in attendance, there were some of the world's biggest media outlets, there were some of the world's biggest war hawks, and they took it in, hook, line, and sinker. And they kind of got this idea out into the minds of the masses, and it was able to happen. Now, they believed it full-heartedly. That's the only way that this thing can work. It's not like everybody who attends these meetings are in on some nefarious plan or agenda or even aware of the idea of the fact that these guys are trying to create an eventual one world global government. There is an inner circle inside the inner circle. They hash out the plan, and then they disseminate this idea to the large body of delegates who believe it, and then they go out and, like a ripple effect, it spreads out across all of society, and boom, just like that, they were able to invade, the Middle East based on this lie that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And obviously they have a lot of other countries on the chopping block, including Iran. And so now it begs the question, when we have major media outlets in here again, we have like the Secretary of War, we have the Secretary General of NATO, who are now meeting in this, what seems to be an emergency April meeting in the midst of Donald Trump's epic fury. It really makes you wonder what's on the actual agenda. What are they planning as the next phase in this plan for an eventual new world order? So I'm going to be here for obviously the duration of the event, and today I hope to maybe capture some people who are not necessarily on the official list. That way you can kind of get a better idea of what they want to convince these people of moving forward. Because as I said, it's an inner circle within the inner circle. These are the guys who hash the plan. They put it into the minds of the delegates who are here, 120 to 150 people on average. That idea then permeates all throughout society, and boom, their plan comes to fruition. So stick with me, guys. This is potentially one of the most important Bilderbergs that we've seen in many, many years. This is my 20th year of covering Bilderberg, and I think this one is potentially going to be huge, with major implications.
Dan Dix on the ground there, exposing the architects behind the world-altering decisions. Now here's the secretive arrivals that he captured as well.
Hey there, guys. Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. I'm here right out front of the Bilderberg Hotel. This is actually the side where all the cars are pulling in and out. As you can see, they got the huge green screen to block the view of me and Josh, the only other journalist here covering Bilderberg. It's just the two of us at this point. And the cars are essentially rolling in right here. Here we got one right here. Let's see who we got here. Sometimes the windows are pretty tinted, makes it difficult to see who we have. And but still, we very well may get a good chance to identify some of these people and potentially clear up any discrepancies from anybody who may be in attendance here and who are not on the official participants list. Because if you've been watching my coverage for a number of years here, you'll know that that's exactly what happens here sometimes. There are some high-profile people who aren't officially publicized to be here, and then they are here. So we're going to be here for the remainder of the day, and we'll see who we can capture heading in to the Bilderberg Hotel here in Washington, D.C.
After witnessing the clandestine arrivals, now with a full list, here we have participant list has been leaked. Washington, D.C. Co-chairs, President Institut Montaigne, Henry de Castries of France, Marie Jose Kravis of the USA, from the Museum of Modern Art, Stacey Abrams, oh my goodness, Sageworks Productions, Marco Oliveira and Applebaum from The Atlantic, Murray Auchincloss from Great Britain, Jose Manuel Barrasso. We have Valerie Budson from France, Carolyn Berg, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent of the United States, International Energy Agency Executive Director Faith Birol, Harold Boll of Belgium, the CEO of Sofina, Peter Bosek Borge Brende of Norway, the President and CEO of the World Economic Forum. How nice. Helen Budliger, State Secretary for Economic Affairs, Roland Bush, President and CEO of Siemens, Nadia Calvino, President of the European Investment Bank, Aro Quintel, the Chair of the Normit Group. Let's see if we can get a better shot here. Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada, member of the House of Lords Camilla Cavendish of Great Britain, Minister of Public Expenditure for Infrastructure of Ireland Jack Chambers, Francois-Philippe Champagne, Minister of Finance and National Revenue of Canada, Jeppe Christensen, Patrick Colson, Jack Clark. The list goes on and on. This is apparently a confidential list, but that's only part of it. This is actually 4 pages. And you can see here even more. I mean, the list goes on and on. Let me see if I can just pop any names here that just come out at me. What I'll do for you guys, I'll repost this on my X account if you want to see it, or you can just go to Dan Dix on X and you can see it directly. But the list, Mark Rutte of the Secretary General of NATO, Eric Schmidt, remember him, right? Let's see here. Who else is here? Peter Thiel. He's on the list. So I'm going to go ahead and repost this right now. You can find this right there on Next News Network's X account. Make sure you follow Dan Dix as well if you haven't done so yet. So let's keep going here. We got more news to track. Now we have the agenda from Dan Dix: AI, Arctic security, China, digital finance, energy diversification, Europe, global trade, the Middle East, Russia, transatlantic defense, Ukraine, USA, future of warfare. And here is Anne Applebaum, key figure from the mainstream media, making her back alley escape.
So here we have Anne Applebaum, one of the largest mainstream media outlets, owners inside the conference, and she's trying to make her getaway in an Uber, interestingly. I've spoken to her a few times in previous years. And I think she knows who we are now because she used to talk to us. But now maybe she understands where we're coming from and refuses.
Salamander Hotel in Washington, D.C. is the scene of the globalist crime. See, this is what the globalist endgame looks like when Ann Applebaum, staff writer for The Atlantic, one of the biggest anti-Trump propaganda outlets in America, gets caught slinking out of Bilderberg in an Uber, trying not to be seen. That tells you everything. See, she wasn't there to report. She was there to receive her orders. These are the same people who told you that borders are racist, who told you that populism is dangerous, who told you that you're the extremist for wanting your country back. And now we know where they get their talking points, from unelected billionaires, central bankers, and intelligence chiefs meeting in secret. Trump happened. MAGA happened. And the globalist order is cracking. That's why they called this emergency meeting. They're not planning anymore because they're panicking. So let me be clear about what you've just witnessed. This is only the beginning, and the participant list has been leaked. I've just reposted it to X. The agenda is leaked, and now the whole world can see exactly who's been pulling the strings the entire time. Every name on that list is a name that was never on your ballot. These are the people who selected your leaders, crashed your economy, opened your borders, and funded both sides of every war in your lifetime, and they thought that you weren't watching. Well, we are watching. So share this video right now before Big Tech buries it. And they will. And then text raw feed to 844-840-4963 so you can be the first to know when news happens. Because you're not going to get the notification about this video. You're not going to see this just pop up in your algorithm. No, no, no. This will be buried. But a text message from me to you cannot be suppressed. And that's exactly why we built this system. So text raw feed to 844-840-4963 and drop a comment below and tell me, do you think it's a coincidence that Bilderberg called their first emergency April meeting in 33 years right when the America First movement is winning? Yes or no? And make sure you are still subscribed and that notification bell is turned on because this story is just getting started. And check out the Next News merch shop right below this video. Wear your support for independent journalism proudly. The globalists, they've got their meetings, but we have the truth. Stay informed and stay free.